Lena and Blake were the type of couple that made people believe in true love. She was a dedicated physical therapist, and he was a brave firefighter. Since their teenage years, they had been each other's first love. That genuine, simple love, where everything seemed to fit perfectly. From this love, Jacob was born, the greatest proof of the happiness they built together. One night, the city sky was painted orange and red by the flames of a colossal fire consuming a food factory. The fire was so intense that reinforcements from neighbouring cities were hastily called to help control it. Lena, with her heart in her throat, watched the live images on television. The sirens echoed on the screen, and in her mind, each one reminding her that her husband, Blake, was there, in the midst of the chaos, risking his life to save others. She clenched her hands tightly, as if somehow she could protect him from a distance. Jacob, only 12 years old, peeked through the crack of the door, his gaze heavy with unease. "Jacob, go to sleep, son. You have school early tomorrow," said Lena softly, turning off the television upon noticing his presence. The effort to keep her voice steady hid the lump in her throat. She didn't want the boy to feel the weight of the anguish that gripped her heart. Jacob hesitated but reluctantly returned to his room. Alone, Lena turned off the lights, but sleep seemed impossible. She lay in bed, the silence of the night broken only by the echo of her thoughts. "Everything will be fine with Blake," she repeated to herself, like a prayer. The next morning, a persistent sound from the doorbell woke her. Lena's heart skipped a beat. Did Blake forget the key again? She wondered, a hopeful smile forming as she ran to answer it. But the smile faded the moment she opened the door. In front of her were Blake's companions, their faces grim and full of sorrow, unable to hide the pain. "No, it can't be," Lena murmured, the air escaping her lungs. The worst was confirmed. The roof of the factory had collapsed under the intense heat while Blake and other firefighters were performing the rescue. He gave his life to save others. Lena staggered, the reality crushing every fragment of hope still remaining. The world, once filled with Blake's laughter and courage, now seemed terribly empty. The months that followed were a whirlwind of pain and emptiness for Lena. No matter how hard she tried, it seemed impossible to remember what life was like before Blake. Everything around her seemed smaller, colourless, without the easy laughter he brought to the toughest days. She found herself missing the simplest things, the silly jokes he insisted on repeating, the spaghetti he made with so much pride, even though it was terrible, and which she always pretended to love just to see the sparkle in his eyes. Even the wet towel left on the bed, which used to irritate her, now felt sorely missed. Meanwhile, the city paid homage to Blake's legacy. Posthumous tributes exalted his courage and altruism. Jacob, still so young, attended every ceremony, standing firm, but his heart ached with longing. He looked at the medals and applause with pride because for him, before being the city's hero, Blake was always his personal hero. And now, that hero belonged to the world. The years passed like a slow wind that eases the pain but never erases the scars. 5 years had passed since Blake's death, and life, though different, continued. Jacob, now in his senior year of high school, was a mix of boy and man, with his father's determination and his mother's tenderness. On a typical morning, Lena arrived at the physical therapy clinic where she worked and encountered an unusual buzz. People were gathering at the entrance, whispering excitedly. Could it be someone famous? Lena wondered, curious but not getting too involved. Upon entering, she was informed that a special patient was there, Damian Scott, a veteran baseball player and city icon, seeking rehabilitation after knee surgery. Lena, unfamiliar with the sports world, did not recognize the name. To her, Damian was just another patient. Even amidst the excitement of her colleagues who were closely watching the treatment, Lena maintained her usual professional dedication, focusing on the exercises and the players' needs. When she got home, she casually mentioned the event to her son. Today I treated a baseball player. It seems he's famous. Damien Scott, that's the name. Jacob, who was playing video games, stopped instantly. His eyes lit up, and he practically jumped off the couch. Mum, you treated Damien Scott? He's a legend. Do you have any idea who he is? My God, that's amazing. Next time, please ask for an autograph for me. Lena, surprised by the exaggerated reaction, chuckled softly and shook her head. I'll try, but remember, I'm a professional. He's just another patient. In the next session, Damien seemed more relaxed. At the end of the consultation, the other doctors and professionals left, leaving them alone for the first time. Phew, I can finally breathe without being watched like I'm in a showcase, Damien joked, letting out a light laugh. Lena smiled, appreciating the more human moment of the player. I imagine it's not easy being a legend. It seems everyone wants to keep you on a pedestal, ensuring that you continue to shine. Damien raised an eyebrow, intrigued. So you follow baseball? Not exactly, Lena replied sincerely. But my son is a big fan of yours. He practically freaked out when I told him I was treating you. By the way, would you mind giving him an autograph? That would be amazing for him. Damien gave a warm smile. Of course I don't mind. In fact, how about a photo? I bet he'll like that even more. Surprised by the suggestion, Lena hesitated for a moment but eventually agreed. When she took out her phone to take the photo, Damien quickly positioned himself next to her, creating a casual and unexpected snapshot. In the following weeks, the physiotherapy sessions became moments full of light conversations and good laughs. Between exercises, Lena and Damien discovered several affinities they didn't expect to have, despite coming from completely different worlds. Then, one day at the end of the session, Damien looked at her with a somewhat shy smile. You know, there's going to be a sponsor event for my team this weekend. I thought you might like to get out a little. We can meet there if you want. Lena hesitated, thinking. Since Blake's death, she rarely accepted invitations, but the idea of a different night seemed tempting. Why not? She replied, surprising herself. Maybe it was time to distract herself and enjoy life again. Her son Jacob frowned as soon as he heard about the invitation. You're going out with him? Why? Lena sighed, choosing her words carefully. Jacob, it's not what you think. Damien and I are just good friends. He invited me to an event, and I thought it would be good to distract myself a little. Jacob shook his head, clearly uncomfortable. If you say so. On the day of the event, Lena was surprised by the elegant setting. The party was for a sponsor of Damien's team, and flashes from photographers lit up the room. There were journalists, celebrities, and a lot of conversation around Damien, who, as always, showed his kindness by accompanying her. Lena, even surrounded by strangers, felt at ease by his side. Amidst laughter and stories, she realized something she hadn't felt in a long time. Lightness. It was as if she were rediscovering the pleasure of living. The next morning, while having coffee, Lena almost choked when she saw the headlines in the newspapers. There were the pictures of her and Damien together. Who is Damien Scott's new girlfriend? Said the headline, emblazoned in bold letters. Jacob walked into the room with a stern face, holding his cell phone. You said you were just friends, Mom. And we are, Jacob. I don't know why they made such a fuss. Damien is just... he's kind, that's all. There's nothing going on between us, Lena replied, trying to stay calm. But Lena's heart knew that this was no longer true. As the days went by, the conversations and moments shared between her and Damien began to take on a different meaning. One evening, during a quiet dinner, Damien leaned slightly towards the table, his expression more serious. Lena, I need to tell you something. I think I'm falling in love with you. Lena's heart raced. She knew she felt the same way. Damien, me too. I'm not going to pretend anymore that this is just friendship. It's something more. And there, between sincere glances and restrained smiles, the two took the first step towards something they could no longer deny. Lena knew she would need to have a serious conversation with Jacob. Sitting next to her son in the living room, she took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "Jacob," she began, her voice gentle yet firm. "I want you to know how happy I am. Falling in love again was something I never imagined. But it happened. This doesn't mean I forget your father or everything we shared together. He will always be a part of us, but sometimes life surprises us, and loving again is a gift I didn't expect." Jacob looked at her, his eyes narrowed with a mix of disbelief and hurt. "Are you saying you're replacing Dad with this player?" "Mum, he's nothing compared to Dad. My dad was a hero. He saved lives. Damien just plays baseball." The pain in Jacob's voice hit her like a punch. Lena held her son's hands, squeezing them affectionately. "Jacob, I never replaced your father with anyone. I loved him deeply and always will. He was my hero and continues to be. Nothing and no one can erase that. But my son, your father is gone, and I'm trying to live. I'm not replacing your father, I'm just accepting that I can still love and be loved." The words hung heavy in the air, but Jacob remained silent, looking away. Lena knew he would need time. As Lena's relationship with Damien blossomed, Jacob left for university in another city. He told himself it wouldn't last. A year later, Damien proposed to Lena. The wedding was scheduled right after the end of the championship, a brilliant season for Damien, who had recovered and led the team to the title. Jacob, upon learning of the wedding, was blunt. "I won't attend." Despite her son's refusal, Lena did not lose hope. On the eve of the wedding, she tried once more. "Jacob, you are the most important guest to me. I know it's difficult, but I hope you will be by my side. It would mean a lot to me." Jacob looked at her, anger mixed with sadness. "You're replacing Dad with him. How can you, Mum?" Jacob blurted out, his voice choked with resentment. "Dad was our hero, remember? How can you forget who he was? This Damien guy, what does he do? Throw a ball? Is that being a hero? Dad risked his life for other people, Mum. He was a real hero, and now you're replacing him. How can you do that to his memory?" Lena swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the words. She approached and placed her hand on her son's face. "Jacob, your father was and always will be our hero. He is alive in our memories, in the stories we tell, in the values he left for you. I will never erase who he was, never. But I also need to live, my son. Loving again doesn't diminish what we feel for him. It is a gift that life has given me, and I hope you understand and support me in my happiness." Jacob nodded, still reluctant, and Lena realized she could not push any further. On the wedding day, Lena decided she would walk in alone. Dressed in white, she took a deep breath as the church doors opened. Music filled the air, and Damien, at the altar, waited for her anxiously. But before she could take the first step, Jacob appeared, blocking her path. "You will not enter this church, not without me," he said, his voice firm. "I support you, Mom. You deserve to be happy." Tears streamed down Lena's eyes as Jacob offered his arm to her, and with a genuine smile, guided her down the church aisle. He finally understood that the memories of his father would never be erased. Blake's place in their hearts was intact, and his mother wasn't replacing anyone, just finding the courage to move forward. Jacob, with a lighter heart, realized that true heroism is not just in great deeds, but in how the memories of those acts inspire those who remain. As he led his mother down the aisle, he understood that keeping a hero's legacy alive does not mean clinging to the past, but honoring it by allowing love and happiness to continue to flourish. Every shared memory and every story told was a flame that kept his father present, proving that heroes never disappear as long as their legacies are lived and celebrated. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.